Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa, Bhagavad Gita, Ashtotter, the Sri Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Bhagavad Gita, Ashtotter, the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 29th day of November 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 3 entitled Karma Yoga, text 26, near the top of page 163. Na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yuktaha samacharan na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yukta samacharan na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yukta samacharan na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yukta samacharan. Give it a try. Na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yukta samacharan na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yukta samacharan na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yukta samacharan na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yukta samacharan. Not yet. It's okay. The first line, sir? First quarter of the verse? Okay. Na buddhi bhedam janayed. Janayed. Na buddhi bhedam janayed. Ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarvakarmani vidvan yukta samacharan. Okay, I'm going to make a suggestion. That if you can somehow carve out a little bit of time, that you can help, to help her learn how to chant. It's okay? A little training. Yeah. She's expert.
Okay, not expert. For example, I was telling her yesterday, last night, and she was showing me a little bit. She said,
Vrindavan Vilasani?
Vrindavan? She told me to ask you, maybe like with the accents, what is like how to pronounce those letters, and she goes, and then it's kind of like Spanish.
She knows all that. Is it okay? Good. Yeah, she knows. She knows more than I do. Okay, we are reading or reciting the word by words. Na, not buddhi bhedam, disruption of intelligence. Janayet, he should cause. Ajnanam, of the foolish, karma sanginam, who are attached to fruit of work. Joshayet, he should dovetail. Sarva, all, karmani, work. Vidvan, a learned person. Yuktaha, engaged. Samacharan, practicing. Translation. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruit of results of prescribed duties. A learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them all. He should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. Purport. Now, just a note about the brackets. When you see brackets in the translation, it means that it's not really in the original Sanskrit, but Prabhupada's putting a little explanatory phrase in there. So that for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness is like a part of the purport. But in order to differentiate it from the actual translation of the word, the Sanskrit words, he puts it like that, okay? So just note that. Purport. Vedaischa sarvar ahameva vedya. That is the end of all Vedic rituals. All rituals, all performances of sacrifices, and everything that is put into the Vedas, including all direction for material activities, are meant for understanding Krishna, who is the ultimate goal of life. But because the conditioned souls do not know anything beyond sense gratification, they study the Vedas to that end. But through fruitive activities and sense gratification regulated by the Vedic rituals, one is gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a realized soul in Krishna consciousness should not disturb others in their activities or understanding, but he should act by showing how the results of all work can be dedicated to the service of Krishna. The learned Krishna-conscious person may act in such a way that the ignorant person working for sense gratification may learn how to act and how to behave. Although the ignorant man is not to be disturbed in his activities, a slightly developed Krishna-conscious person may directly be engaged in the service of the Lord without waiting for other Vedic formulas. For this fortunate man, there is no need to follow the Vedic rituals, because by direct Krishna consciousness, one can have all the results one would otherwise derive from following one's prescribed duties. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshura Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So again, we look at the context. The previous verse helps to understand the present verse. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. So Krishna consciousness is a process that all efforts are made in order to meet people where they're at, in order to save them. It doesn't do any, the vast mass of people in this Kali Yuga are 1,000,000 miles away from Krishna consciousness. Because the first thing is that Krishna consciousness means acting selflessly. You know, this idea of jagya, this whole chapter is built on this idea of jagya or sacrifice. Well, people are ready to sacrifice, but they're ready to sacrifice in such a way that they'll get a benefit afterward. See?
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Oh, what's happening? Oh, it's red?
It's red. I'm just going to change it.
Okay.
I don't think it'll last all time.
Yeah. This one is the one that's changed most of them.
I did a couple days ago.
Really? Too much talking going on around here. Okay, Hare Krishna. So, who's ready to act selflessly? Well, there's an element of that, as Prabhupada pointed out, in how a mother will act for the child simply out of love, selflessly, and so forth. But to have it as a central principle of one's life is practically unheard of, because in the material world means that you're identifying with the body and the extensions of the body. So you may be acting for your family, that may thought to be selfless, but you're getting something back from that. You're doing that because you'll be getting pleasure, and it'll be an exchange of love and so forth. But it's not a transcendental activity, because it's simply the extended selfishness. The family, it could be the country, it could be the clan, like that. So all of that is what famous phrase, perverted reflection of Krishna consciousness, where you're identifying yourself as an eternal servant of Krishna, and you're taking pleasure in the pleasure of the Lord and the pleasure of his devotees, And that's the perfect world. That's the world of eternal knowledge and bliss. So how to induce the people of this world, and especially this age, to take up Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate end of which is complete selflessness, and identifying with the pleasures of the Lord and taking his own pleasure in that and so forth. No one will be interested. They won't believe it. They won't believe that you could live a whole life like that, because even someone's in the mode of goodness, that's also conditioned. And there's nobody purely in the mode of goodness. As we read in the 14th chapter, it's always vying with the mode of passion. Even the mode of ignorance comes in. There's always a mix. So that's what this is all about. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruit result of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, that person himself is working in the spirit of devotion. He should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So what comes to mind is Jayananda, his famous devotee who was identified with Rath Yatra. But there was so much more to him than that. He would know the art of engaging all kinds of people. He would go out and what was it? Get prasadam, to feed the crew to build the carts, as well as to cook the feast for thousands. So how is he going to do that on the salary of a cab driver, which was sustaining the temple? So he made friends. His whole demeanor, his Krishna consciousness was attractive because he was attractive, and he met people where they're at. What was it, Banana King Louis? Or something like that. There was someone who used to, he was running a fruit stand, and Jayananda needed some, and he asked him if he could donate some bananas, which may be a little bit ripe. He comes back with practically a whole truck full of bananas, and he did that all the time. So here was somebody who was meeting people where they're at. He was being friendly with them. He was awakening little sparks of Krishna consciousness, selfless service. And it was glorious. And he made so many devotees that way. I like to tell the story about how he made Jayapataka Maharaj into a devotee, who's now has over 50,000 disciples in India. One of many of the heroes of the movement. And in 1967, I think that was the summer of love. I think it was 67. I missed it. And Prabhupada was there for the first part of that. When he went from New York in 1966, in early 67, January, he went to the temple in Frederick Street in Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco, that Mukunda Maharaj, not Maharaj at that time, Mukunda and Shyamasundar and their wives had opened up. And the famous mantra rock dance, which is got all these famous singers coming, and it was all chanting Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada came. And then it was right next to, if you visit it, you'll see it's right next to Golden Gate Park, where the hippies were going all the time, And it was the summer of love. That was the summer of love. And it was just streaming in from all over. And people were coming. He came from Canada. He was Canadian, Jayapataka Maharaj, just to check out the scene, So he's walking past the lot across the Frederick Street Temple where they're building the carts or something like that. And Jayana said, and he stopped to look in. I said, "Hey, do you know how to use a screwdriver or a hammer? Can you help out a little bit?" And that was the mood. You were naturally friendly. That was the whole thing in Summer of Love. You're open to that. So he walked in there, and he did a little work. And while he's doing the work, Jayananda is preaching to him. He's sharing Krishna consciousness, and it's very attractive the way he presented it. So in that way, he became attracted, and he began chanting, and he became a devotee. So that's the perfection of what we're looking at right here. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruit of results, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So that directly describes that phenomenon. And this is what Prabhupada did. I mean, he attracted people to come and listen and to chant. And then I heard a lecture that he gave in 26 Second Hour. They're really special. You should try to listen to them, Prabhupada is so fired up because he finally has an audience. That's they're his people, it's his place, he doesn't have to worry about offending Dr. Mishra or anything like that. And he's on fire to try to impart the knowledge, and he's so he's so energetic, and you can see why people are attracted, because there's something here, so substantial, So he says one place, yes, we just try to have a program where they can be engaged in some Krishna conscious activity throughout the day. Okay, so now we need to try to print back the guided magazine. So Gargamuni, they go out to Long Island where they saw some advertisement for a mimeograph machine, and it was like $150. So they took Prabhupada out there, and there were two of them. Each one was $150. So he said, well, I have $150. Can you give me both of them? And Prabhupada he cast a spell, and he got both of the machines. He was very convincing. He got the rent down in the place. He made the guy a member or a trustee of the society, the landlord. So he got the rent down on it because he had an apartment too. Anyway, this is the way the movement grew, exactly according to this, to somehow or other engage people in Krishna consciousness, in activities, and Krishna from within then gives the people the intelligence to chant Hare Krishna, come back, not everyone, but a certain percentage. So that's what this is all about. We're not into just, working in some job and if possible, giving some donation to the temple. You want to really understand what the benefit is to give as much as possible of your work to Krishna. And that way, it's not just like a church where you come and you drop some money into okay, I did my duty, No, you actually realize, the work that I did to make this money then has become devotional service. And you're not trying to get people to quit their jobs and go off the Himalayas or anything like that. Keep the job, give some of the fruits to Krishna consciousness, to see the benefit that we're doing for all the people, and chant Hare Krishna, and you'll also feel the benefits yourself. It's a wonderful process, and that's the movement grew all over the world that way. Very practical. All right. Any questions, comments? Now we've come on deck. Yes, Prabhu.
How do we know that we're meeting people where they are? How do we calibrate?
Oh, the mic.
Oh, yeah.
There's the mic right there. Okay.
Yes, how do we know that we're meeting people where they are? How do we calibrate our efforts to preach or share Krishna consciousness with the reality of whomever it is we're addressing? The present reality, I should say.
Yeah, this is something that comes with experience, where you see, especially those who go out all the time and they meet people and distribute books. Like Govardhan, he was saying when he gives his classes, I think it was he who explained that. Well, the first thing we learn, from Vijay, those who are training us up, is that you never mention God. At least not at first, because people, that's such a freighted concept, and you never know what will happen. Someone will become angry, or they'll start preaching to you about their God. You don't want that. So he says, this book will definitely help you to relieve stress. Everyone's stressed out. The pandemic, the wars, the taxes, the economy, something is stressing them out, or something like that. So you see, as Prabhupada did, where people are at. You understand what the zeitgeist is, and you try to go with that. Like we had when we put out the Higher Taste book, it's a cookbook. It's a cookbook, with these exotic. But there is woven into the cookbook is the philosophy of vegetarianism and prasadam and everything. So that's the idea, and often you'll intrigue someone because this is. You say, yeah, I was thinking about that, or I really wondered about transmigration. I heard about that, like that. So it's and it's of course many people, as in the storefront, they come and they go, But as we learn in the Bhagavad Gita, even a little tiny bit of Krishna consciousness is auspicious. So you become enlivened like that, and all right, this person didn't take a book or whatever, but they got a good impression, and they heard Hare Krishna like that, you know. So you get, and then you keep trying, and eventually you succeed. And here we are. Somebody did that with us. Yeah.
A small comment about like meeting people where they're at. Like here, I would say, yeah, no one, definitely not talk about God. But in Atlanta, it's kind of a different story because it's in the Bible Belt. So there were a lot of people who were like hardcore Christians and who would say things like, "Oh, get that book away from me," and you know, like. But also, there were a lot more people who, like, when you talked about God, because like everyone was thinking about God, but a lot of people have become disillusioned from Christianity,
Yeah,
so they were into like spiritual and you could talk about God and they were like interested because it was like because they could look at it and they knew, okay, yeah, this is about God. Like they know anyway that this has got something to do with God. But
yeah, well, that's a perfect example. I mean, in certain areas, certain places, and then it's a different story. But you know, people who come to the zoo, you know, on vacation, they're not, you know, don't expect they won't, they're not spontaneously there for, you know, for God. But they'll hear you if you know, try to deal with how you can deal with your problems and get through, you know, whatever. I'm not sure how they do it, but they distribute a lot of books. All right, we are on text 27, which is probably the most famous verse in this chapter. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimhuratma kartaham iti manyate. Now, you know, part of my service is going over, not alone, but with a whole team of devotees, the revisions that were made. And there's revisions were made to this chapter in comparison to the Macmillan Gita, which was published in 72, and in 83, the BBT and the GBC authorized Jayawada Swami to go through with a team of devotees and see if there had to be some revisions. So actually what the translation that the slight change has been made, instead of the doer of activities that are actually carried out, thinks himself the doer of activities, karma, which are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Because that word sarvashaha is there, which means all. All activities are carried out by the modes of nature, but we're thinking that we're doing them, that we are the sole doers. As we learn later in the Gita, there's 5 factors of activity. There's the soul, certainly, and there's also the senses, there's the endeavor, but primarily there's the super soul. The super soul is giving you the intelligence to do everything. So if you just act thinking you're the sole doer, then you are overcome by, influenced by the false ego. See, ahankara vimudhatma, you're bewildered by the false ego. So let's read the purport. 2 persons, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level, may appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is the doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is the symptom of his nescience. He does not know that this gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature. Under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, he does not know that this gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna, in Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesha, or the master of the senses of the material body. For due to his long misuse of the senses in sense gratification, he is factually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. So this is, you see how important this verse is. this word ahankara is very significant. Moga Lila gave an interesting class in which he analyzed this word. Ahankara, I mean that which makes the sense of I, increases the sense of I and mine, you know. Now I always understood, I think it could be both. Ahankara so literally means I am the doer. But the kara is a word that means doer or actor. But in any case, it's obviously what it is. It's based on the false conception that I am this body, you know, and that I'm doing all of these things independently. It seems like a no-brainer, right? And in one sense, it is a no-brainer because it's ultimately fallacious. Obviously, we're not independent, and you realize that when you get some injury, and the body doesn't do what you want it to do, you know. I had this has been years now, but it's very memorable. I had a serious sprained ankle back in November. What is it? It was before I think 2019. And I was really, for a few days I couldn't I couldn't walk, and I couldn't come to the temple. Finally, I was able to develop the use of the cane, and I was doing that, you know. And while I was sitting in a chair, and I would be massaging it, you know, and trying. It took really months to get back to normal. Huh? Was it 2021? That's another problem you have to confront, your memory. So anyway, but it you know, it just was a reminder of something that you really know. But if you forget, you know, because it's easy to forget. You're in a healthy frame of mind, everything's working nicely, you know, and yeah, I'm doing all this stuff. Yeah, what are you talking about? But how are we doing it? You know, we're sitting here in the material body. We're spirit. And we certainly didn't create the body, nor are we maintaining it. We don't know how it works. You know, Prabhupada makes that point. How do you know, does anyone know just how the food you eat turns into energy and so forth? It's such a complicated, amazing machine. And you just take it for granted. That's what you do. And so Krishna consciousness begins really with understanding how dependent we are on the mercy of the Lord just for the next breath. I mean, that was one of the reasons why, when that pandemic hit, suddenly we had all kinds of people coming to the temple. We had a lot of people, you know, young people, and okay. This is when Govardhan joined. This is when Dvijamani joined, and we had other people come who are not here anymore. They may have moved on to another temple, you know, because suddenly it's very serious. The very air you breathe can be deadly with germs. And so, you know, who doesn't take breathing for it? You know, you forget about it until you can't do it. And so the basic, you know, the message of Krishna consciousness, which is that, hey, you know, birth, old age, disease, and death, you know, your time is limited. And so you want to use the time in this human body to try to progress toward freedom from birth, old age, disease, and death. That's emphasized at the beginning, even in Krishna consciousness, as a motivation to become serious. Is that we're talking life and death here. You know, we have a chance to break this cycle. Everyone in India knows this, you know, and that's why there's millions and millions, tens of millions of people who come to these big Kumbh Melas every 12 years. I think they have a big one, you know. And where Prabhupada lived, in the city where he lived for 13 years, Allahabad, which is really Prayag. And they're all coming by the million, you know, and they're not all bhaktas. Many are, but they're not all the Krishna bhaktas. But they want a chance at that liberation, and it's almost like a shortcut, you know. You know, if you can just bathe in that confluence of the three rivers at the right time, astrologically, you get liberation. You know, little do they know that if you just chant Hare Krishna, you get liberation. That's a side benefit. But anyway. So, but here in the Western world or other parts of the world, that's not understood. So, this verse is so critical. Prakrute kriyamanani gunai karmani sarva. The first line says that the material nature is the modes of nature and the activities. All the activities are being done by the material modes of nature, by the material nature, acting under the supervision of Krishna. We'll learn in the 9th chapter, Maya Jakshena Prakriti, there's that same word Prakriti. Maya Jakshena Prakriti, Suyate Sacharacharam, Hetunane Nakonteya Jagat Vipati Vartate. This word Vipadivartate means the whole universe is moving and working under my supervision, Krishna says. He's in every atom as a supersoul. He's in every heart as a supersoul, giving us knowledge, forgetfulness, intelligence, how to do everything. And not just our heart, even the little ants and everything. He's there. How do they know to go this way rather than that way, you know? Not to go into the Hare Krishna temple because everyone's walking around Tulsi. You can get, it's dangerous, you know. But the point is, he's sustaining everything. You know, we learned that, okay, Brahma creates, Shiva destroys, and Vishnu sustains. That's the hardest part. The Vishnu sustains. Present in every atom, in every heart, you know. But that's all forgotten. We can't see. And so in the great ignorance, when we're bewildered by this ahankara, this sense of I am the doer, vimudhatma, completely bewildered, then we think, kartaham, I'm doing it. I'm the doer, you know. And that's a great fallacy. So the principle is that to understand Krishna is the rightful enjoyer of all the fruits of our activity because he provided everything. He provides the material energy that we're living in. He provides the intelligence that we work with. He provides the body, the incredibly complicated body that we're doing stuff with. So he is Rishikesha. He's the rightful master of the senses, namely our senses. And he should be given the fruits. So that's the principle. You join the ashram, you know, and everything belongs to God. And so, okay, we give it to the spiritual master. He uses it for God, you know. And that's a principle. And detachment. So there's a certain real sense of freedom for that, with that. Whatever you can do, you give it to God. You give it to Krishna. It can be a little bit or a lot. It can be some great expertise. You know, you can have millions of dollars like Ambarish Prabhu. You know, you can have a little bank account or just whatever you can produce. You know, whatever. You know, you're the pot washer. You know, I did a lot of pots in the early days. I was never, you know, and I'm telling you, it was so inspiring. I still remember to this day, there was one fellow who was in a wheelchair, and he accepted his day doing the pots, and you would see him there reaching over, you know, and doing the pots. I think he had someone who helped him, but... Huh? Yeah, he was living in the ashram. Yeah. We had quite a crew there in Brooklyn at that time, a lot of variety, amazing. So anyway, this, you know, Prabhupada would often, he would quote the first half of this verse, and then the second half of that verse in chapter 13 that I'm always quoting, Purushak Prakati Sohi, Bhunkte Prakati Jangunan, Karananguna Sangosa, Sadasad Yoni Janmasu. Which means that the Purusha, that's us, that we're actually Prakriti. We learned that in the 7th chapter. We're para Prakriti, we're energy. And Krishna is the energetic source. But we're acting as the enjoyer and the controller, and therefore we call the Purusha in this verse, you see? So we're Purusha Prakriti, so within material energy. Bhunkte means in this case, not just enjoy, but it also means suffer, it means experience. Prakriti Jan Gunan, we're experiencing the 3 modes of material nature that are generated from Prakriti. Material. We'll learn that in the 14th chapter. Goodness, passion, ignorance, right? So, Purushak Prakatista Bhunkte Prakriti Jangunan Karanang Gunasangasya. Now, here's the word Karanam is related to this ahankara. Karanam in general means a cause. You see? The Karana ocean, right? So, Purushak Bhunkte Prakriti Jangunan Karanang Gunasangosya. Gunasanga. Now, Sangha means association. Right, satsanga. Association, guna. As we associate, this is where our freedom comes in. How do we associate with the modes? You know, are we attracted to the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance? Now, if we know from Bhagavad Gita or from others that it's not good to be attracted to the mode of ignorance, so even though we're attracted, we'll avoid that influence. Try to associate with people and things in the mode of goodness or transcendental. That's where the intelligence comes in. That's where the knowledge comes in. So, but whatever we do, as we associate with those modes, that is determining our next birth. That is our destiny. We have it in our hands. But if we don't know anything, we're helpless. We're just whipped around by the modes, and again we go down, from the human form. So karanang gunasangasa sadasad yoni janmasu. Sadasad yoni means good and bad births. Yoni is taking birth. Yoni janmasu, take birth in good or bad situations, according to how we associate with the modes. So we should learn how to associate with the modes, or more properly, disassociate from the modes, so that we can get the best next birth. So Prabhupada would obviously say, Prakriti Kriyamanani Guna Karmani Sam. Everything is being done by material energy. And as we associate with the modes of that material energy, we will make our destiny. So, but it's important to understand is to free ourselves from the false sense of identity. Ahankara in general means the false ego, the false sense of self. I am this body, I am an independent enjoyer and controller, and that's who I am, and that's how I live my life. But that's simply a path to, especially in this age, to lower birth, because we want to be agents of Krishna. Just like Lord Chaitanya, he prayed. I nanda tanuja kinkadam patitam mam vishame bhavam buddho. So he's taking the role of a conditioned soul here. He said, my dear Lord, O son of Nanda Maharaj, I am your eternal servant, but I have fallen into this world of birth and death. Patitam, fallen. Patitam mam vishame bhavam buddho. Vishame is horrible. Bhavam buddho, ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as an atom at your lotus feet. As when you hear lotus feet, think service. That's what it means. Please make me your eternal servant. Now he himself is Krishna, praying that way, teaching us how to pray. And to really feel oneself, Trinadapi Sunicham is insignificant. What am I really, in the calculation of things? I'm very insignificant, like a little piece of glass in the ground, and let me tolerate everything, but at the same time chant Hare Krishna, because the chanting Hare Krishna in that mood of feeling very insignificant, not really asking any honor, giving all honor to others, especially devotees, that puts you in the right mood to call out to Krishna helplessly with supplication. And that's the great value of this Kali Yuga. Not any Kali Yuga, but this Kali Yuga where Lord Chaitanya appeared. Krishna appeared as Lord Chaitanya. The great advantage is that we're so fallen and we're so unqualified and we have such short lives and we're always disturbed that our only hope is to call out from the bottom of our hearts, Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare. Please make me your eternal servant. Give me some service to do. Really a sincere mood. Whereas those who are, great yogis, got so many powers, we read somebody in the Bhagavatam, or very wealthy, or whatever you have. It's very difficult to call out in that sense of helplessness, because you feel, I got some control here, I got all this money, I got this army, I got this. But it's all illusion. We don't have anything. We're helpless from moment to moment. So that is one of the basic teachings, and it's so simple. It's almost like, paring it all down to the essence, is that we're in a dangerous situation. At every moment, at every step, there's danger. But we have been given this wonderful means by which we can deal with the danger, deal with the situation we're in, by chanting this mantra. It all starts there. And the expansions of the mantra, all these are mantras too. These verses that we chant, Prabhupada said that you could chant them again and again for benefit. They all emanate from the holy name. The holy name is Krishna. It's not different. How many? It's like inconceivable, but it's true. So if we take it seriously, then our consciousness becomes transformed. We're open to this philosophy that it means something to us in our life. It's how we can navigate this difficult life in the Kali Yuga and make the best use of a bad bargain, as Prabhupada famously said. That is, best use is Krishna consciousness. Nothing is lost. Even if you don't go back to Godhead in this life, maybe it'll be one more life, but considering there are millions of lives behind us to bring us to this point, we're practically home free already. But we have to take it seriously. All right, text 28. Tattvavitu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayo gunaguneshu vartanta iti matvana sajjate. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, almighty armed, one, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work and devotion and work for fruitive results. Purport: the knower of the absolute truth is convinced of his awkward position in material association. He knows that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and that his position should not be in the material creation. He knows his real identity as part and parcel of the Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge, and he realizes that somehow or other he is entrapped in the material conception of life. In his pure state of existence, he is meant to dovetail his activities in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He therefore engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, which are all circumstantial and temporary. He knows that his material condition of life is under the supreme control of the Lord. Consequently, he is not disturbed by all kinds of material reactions, which he considers to be the mercy of the Lord. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, one who knows the absolute truth in three different features, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Tattvavit, for he knows also his own factual position in relationship with the Supreme. So, this is a constant recurring theme, obviously, in our literature. And it comes to mind these the teachings of Lord Rishabhdev. There's three verses, as I pointed out before, there's often little self-contained lessons that you'll find throughout the books. The Bhagavad Gita has several. At the end of this chapter, there's the one about karma, very important. So he's talking about the same thing. He says, Nunam pramatta kurate vikarma yadindriya pritaya apranoti nasadu manne yata atmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadeha. Now nuna means certainly. Pramatta means mad, but not just mad, very mad. When you see a word beginning with pra, it means extremely. Pra is an intensifier. Who's mad? Those who are simply after sense gratification. Indriya priti, he uses that phrase, which is exactly translated as sense gratification. Indriya is senses, priti is gratification. So, and what do? They perform all kinds of activities, not unregulated, called vikarma. See, there's karma, there's akarma, and there's vikarma. And I think it's the next chapter we're going to learn about all these. So karma, now in different contexts, it means different things. Karma can just mean activity, fruit of activity, but not really heavily sinful activity. Just anything that's fruit of activity. It includes sinful activity. But in this in this context, the karma is differentiated from vikarma. So karma is activity that is fruitive, but it's according to the Vedic rules and regulations. There's something called the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. It has all kinds of rituals and sacrifices in order to improve your next birth, maybe even go to the heavenly planets, But it's all still fruitive. It's still, Krishna derides that in the 9th chapter. You're going and coming, you're not making, it doesn't make any sense. Andavatu palamtesham tadava, this is the 7th chapter. Those alpamadasam means, as Prabhupada's famous way, not very much brain substance. In other words, pretty stupid. You work, you sacrifice, you go to Indraloka. Oh, I made it, It's what is it? Tetam bhuktva svargalokam vishalam. Svargaloka means heaven in general, often Indraloka, And you can enjoy godly delights. Vishala means for a long time, very high quality, like that. I made it, I'm here, But then your piety, it's being drawn down, just like a bank account. Chine punye, when your punya is exhausted, Chine punye, marche lokam vishandi. Krishna doesn't mince words. You come down again to the world of death. And here you are, you didn't make any progress. So evam trihi dhamma manupapanna katakatam kama kama labante. Kama kama, when you're trying to satisfy these lusty desires, whatever mode of nature may be in, you don't go anywhere. You just go and you come back. Now you're back on Earth again, you know? And, you know, you just wasted all that time in the heavenly planets. So we don't want to do that, you know? So, but vikarma doesn't get you to heavenly planets, it gets you to hell. Or at best, another birth in this world. Because that's what Rishabhdev is saying. He says, Nunam pramatta kurate vikarma yad indriya pritiya apranoti. They're simply concerned with indriya priti, sense gratification. Nasadu manye. What he say? My opinion is it's not very good. The word sadhu can mean a sage, or as an adjective, it can mean very good. You know, bravo, bravo. You'll see in Krishna Leela when he does something nice, his friends will say, sadhu, sadhu. You know? Now, of course, all the devotees, when we first heard that, we said, oh, he's calling him a sadhu. No, he's just saying, bravo, bravo, very good, very good. So anyway, nasadu manye, my opinion, says Lord Rishabhdev, who's an incarnation of Krishna, is that this is not a very good idea. Because you're bound to get another material body, which is bound to give you all kinds of suffering. Nasadu manye yata, by that, atmano yam, the atma, asan api klesha da asadeya. You get a deha, a body, which though temporary, is cause of all kinds of misery. So then he gives, the next verse is really the heart of this little lesson, the 3-verse lesson. So what's the solution to being completely mad and being enthralled by all this, which is what everyone is out here? Parabhavas tavada bodha jato yavan jigyasata atma tattvam. Here's that very word. Here's a tattva. You see, tattvavit. Atma tattvam. Parabhavas tavada bodha jato yavan jigyasata atma tattvam yavat kriyas tavadidam mano vai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. So very, very wonderful verse. Parabhavas, this is defeat. Defeat means birth, death, old age, and disease. Again and again and again. That's defeat. Tavad. Now this word, in Sanskrit, it's such a wonderful language. They have these pairs of words. Yatatata. That we know in English. Just as, similarly. It calls an analogy. Yavatavat means, it's usually negatively. As long as you don't do this, you won't get this. You see? Yavat is if you don't do it, as long as you don't do it, then tavat, you won't get this. So he says, parabhavas tavad. So right away, he begins with the tavad. Parabhavas means defeat. You're going to remain defeated, birth after birth. Why? This defeat is caused by ignorance, abodha. You know, buddhi is intelligence. So abodha, jata. Jata means born. So this defeat, birth, old age, disease, and birth, old age, the cycle of samsara, is a result of ignorance. It's because we don't know how to act for our own best interests. So we get bewildered by false ego. We think we're the doer, we're the enjoyer. It's as simple as that. Abodha jato yavan na jigyasata atma tattvam. As long as you do not inquire into the atma tattva, the truth of the self and the soul, the super soul, in other words, everything. Note that the Bhagavatam is the conclusive commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And so you find these echoes all the time. Right at the beginning, the very first words of the Bhagavatam. Janmadyasya yaton. That Janmadyasya is the second sutra in the whole Vedanta Sutra. And here we have another echo of it. Jigyasa tato brahma jigyasa. That's the first sutra. Now you're a human being, now you have to inquire into the ultimate truth, the Brahman, the source of everything, God. Don't waste your life. This is right, you know, if anything, they don't waste words. It's in the Vedanta Sutra. They're little aphorisms. So the same thing in this verse. It says, Parabhabas tavada bodha yavan, as long as you, yavan, do not, jigyasa atma tattvam, do not inquire into the absolute truth. Then what's the result of that lack of inquiry? Yavat kriyas, as long as you're performing fruitive activity, yavat kriyas tavad idam manovai karmatmakam, your mind will remain karmatmakam, meaning saturated with all kinds of fruitive desires and plans to enjoy, and it controls your activity. You see? Yavat karmatmakam yena, by which yena sharira bandha, you remain bound to a material body. It's all very logical. You'll be defeated because it's born of ignorance. If you don't inquire into the absolute truth, you'll remain ignorant. And so you'll be acting, your mind will be forcing you to act fruitively, as every 99.99% of people are doing. So now the last verse, so he sums it up. He says, Avidyama yavat kriyastana karmang yena shriyata bandha. I forget the Sanskrit of the first line. But he says, thus the mind saturated with these fruitive desires and karmatmaka keeps one bound. And then he has the punchline there. He says, Pritir nayavan maya vasudeve namuchate dehi yogena tavat. Priti. Now he's going to love of God. Where did that come in from? Priti nayavan, again, yavan, as long as you do not get love for whom? For me. Rishabdev says, Priti nayavan mai, who am Vasudev. He's saying right there, I am Vasudev. Priti nayavan mai namuchate dehi yogena tavat. You will not be able to get free from the bondage of a material body. In other words, you continue samsara. So there's no mukti without bhakti. This is a big lesson, no mukti. You want mukti, then become a bhakta. Then you'll forget about mukti, but you'll get it. Mukti will be standing at the door waiting to serve you. This is Bilva Mangal Thakur in his Krishna Karnamrita. He says the same thing. I won't get into that verse right now because we're kind of running out of time. But, anyway, the whole idea is that one who is a knower of the truth will not does not engage himself in the senses, sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work and devotion and work for fruitive results, and that we should know, and we should pick the work that's in devotion, and even with something that looks like we're working for fruitive results can be devotion according to our mentality. Well, yes, we're working, we're making our paycheck and everything, but we're giving a donation to the temple. We're helping and we're engaging in the temple and we're chanting Hare Krishna. So that's also very important devotional service. So the whole thing depends on the consciousness by which we do the work. Yeah. And I planned a certain poem, and I'm actually going to read it. So this is a verse from the Mukundamala Stotra, which is a wonderful book by King Kulashekar, one of the Alvars. He and other Alvars lived early on, hundreds of years before Lord Chaitanya, in South India. So this is the how to escape the desert of this world. Karachadana saroje kanti mannetramine shamamushi bujavichi vyakule agada marge hari sadasi vagaya pi ateja ojalaugam bhavamotapati kinna kleshamadhyachajami. The desert of this world is scorching me, tormenting me with endless misery. But now I see the perfect remedy. I'll dive into the lake of Sri Hari. The lotuses that grow within that pool are Krishna's hands and feet, so soft and cool. Oh, now what have I done here? Oh, this is horrible. I think I know by heart. The lotuses that grow within that pool are Krishna's hands and feet, so soft and cool. The fish there are his eyes, which ridicule a pair of most exquisite, brilliant jewels. His arms, with graceful motions, ever make delightful waves in that unfathomed lake. Its waters is his beauty. Let me take deep draughts of it, my burning thirst to slake. If you desire relief from misery and wish to gain perfection easily, then take to heart my perfect remedy and dive into the lake of Sri Hari. So this is one little verse from the Mukundamala Stotra. Well, I don't know if I got any applause before. I was clapping it. All right, let's adjourn. We're going to have a nice kirtan now. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Oh boy. Now we're in trouble.